views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly Neff. This hit show will illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. Renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake to the greatest version of yourself. Learn to tap into your intuitions, think critically about our world, heal emotional and psychological wounds, and follow your passions to live your dreams. Each week, you'll learn how to navigate the global shift of consciousness and explore the deeper knowledge within. Welcome home. Now here's your host, Dr. Kelly Neff.
Hi everyone, I am Dr. Kelly and you are listening to Lucid Planet Radio on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience healing, inspiration, and knowledge. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Lucid Planet Radio, we will have some of the most gifted scientists, healers, speakers, and authors helping you to discover the greatest version of yourself. You can find out more at thelucidplanet.com and listen to all of my radio show archives at lucidplanetradio.com. Well, today's show is all about healing and the incredible importance of one particular aspect, which is forgiveness, and how forgiveness can be so vital to healing our emotional, physical, and even spiritual wounds. It really is incredibly critical to our well-being, and yet, in my experience at least, forgiveness can also be one of the hardest experiences on the journey to healing. So how do we learn to forgive? Well, to help us answer that question, I am thrilled to welcome Dr. Fred Luskin to the show today. He is a psychologist, and he really is one of the most preeminent researchers in the topic of the physical and mental health benefits of forgiveness. Just a little background on our guest today. Dr. Luskin has a PhD in counseling and health psychology from Stanford University, and he is also the director of the Stanford Forgiveness Project and a senior consultant in health promotion, also at Stanford University. He has been teaching about forgiveness for over 20 years. He has plenty of insight on how to help make this process of forgiveness easier. And my goodness, his research has had incredible implications, just showing that people who forgive, they experience less anger, they feel less stress, they suffer less depression, they become more hopeful, more optimistic. They have physical benefits when they're forgivers, fewer symptoms of stress, improvement in appetite, sleep, etc. We're going to get to all of that in more detail. This is really an amazing tool, forgiveness, and something that has resonated with a lot of our fans here at Lucid Planet who are looking to find forgiveness in their lives. So I'm really excited. Please let's welcome Dr. Fred Luskin to the show. Hi, Fred.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you on. And even just speaking with you briefly, I already feel this kind of mellow Zen presence. Like you are just super on the level and super chill. And you've been practicing this for a long time, I can tell. And
But you know, the good news and the bad news is that it requires some degree of practice, that it's like forgiveness is more an action and a way of being than it is necessarily just like a response to one event.
Good point, because it's not like there's only one event. It just keeps
exactly.
going.
You got it.
It keeps going. So let me ask you, Fred, what got you interested in studying this topic?
You know, there were a couple of things. One is the science of it, which was my dissertation. Mm-hmm. The other is personal, that I had been very badly hurt and had to really dig deep and figure out what the heck to do about it, which was very challenging. And a third piece is I've been interested for a long time in the interface between spiritual things and science and health things. Mm. And so those three things came together. The first that happened was the event that hurt me. Like I was I was just devastated and didn't know how to handle it at all. And that's what was so challenging to me. And that's what I relate to so strongly with all the people that I meet with. That I was completely blown over by how hard it is to deal with a hurt that you don't expect and never prepared for.
And it's often the people closest to us that hurt us the
Ain't that
most.
the truth?
Yeah. So was this hard for you getting into this, or did it kind of help you on your own journey as you began to explore this topic?
Oh man, the truth is I was really lost and had been betrayed by a very close friend and really didn't know what to do about it and suffered and became less than I used to and all this stuff. And it took a kick in the butt from somebody else saying, Fred, you're not the person you used to be. You're just not. And at a moment when that happened, I looked to myself and say, I got to do something, but I don't know what it is. And it was only at that moment that forgiveness came into my purview at all. Before then, it had been anger and giving up and mistrust and complaining and bitterness and all the stuff that we all do when we're sandbagged and don't know how to deal with it. So it was very hard for me personally to do this when I stumbled into it.
And yet it was almost like spirit was guiding you.
I mean, they could have done a little better job, but yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, this was, from my understanding, is you stumbled into this really at a time before kind of mainstream spirituality and all of this new age thinking was a huge deal.
That's the truth.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. And when you talked about, fusing the spiritual, the scientific, the health, that's something that I, also as a psychologist have definitely kind of struggled with and sought to understand. But you very much kind of blazed that trail and were able to bring what, Eastern traditions and also Western religious traditions and spiritual traditions to an extent. You've kind of been able to bring that into something that can be methodologically operationalized, measured, kind of scientifically supported and proven. And that's a huge deal.
It didn't feel like it then because at the time that I started doing the science of this, there was almost nobody doing this. I think when I started, there were three existing research studies at all in the domain of forgiveness. And so it was a non-field. And I was just lucky enough that I did my work at a time when things were open, that it was new, as you're saying, that confluence of spirituality and health and stuff like that. But I was allowed to do it in a modest way. That was what was such a gift, that I didn't have to know very much. I just had to know more than was there before because I didn't know very much. And I was allowed to learn as I went along. And at some level, I'm still learning as I go along. It gets at the deepest questions of human beings, which is how do we let go of our resentment when other people fail us? And how do we deal with when we fail other people and ourselves? These are very challenging, deep questions.
Mm-hmm, they are. And I can't wait to hear more of your insights on these. Just to give our listeners some kind of perspective, how many studies are there on this now compared to when you started?
On outcome studies, there still aren't that many. An outcome study is like you get a group of people, you do something to them, like you help them meditate or be more forgiving or anything. You teach them something or you do something to them. And then over time, you study the degree that it makes a difference.
Sure.
I'm going to say there are no more than 20 in the field of forgiveness now. That may even be a high estimate. What has grown a lot is the study about forgiveness, like who may be more inclined to do it, and what are the situations where it's more difficult, and what kind of people like can't do it, like can a narcissist forgive?
Yeah, not so much.
Right. But
Yeah.
the actual experimentation with it is still very limited because there's very little money set aside for this. Very little.
It's not glamorous. There's not medications we can make to somehow increase people's forgiveness, although maybe there is. But I think, definitely what you're getting at here is this is something that deeply inside we know to be true, that through forgiving we can heal. I mean, it's so challenging, and it's wonderful to see science actually supporting this notion and trying to give us kind of advice and healing from the science and also from the spiritual side so that we can kind of make peace within ourselves. And really, this is, like you mentioned, such a fundamental component of really the whole human existence is understanding and getting to the bottom of this. So there might not be money behind it, but there's definitely a lot of heart and soul and healing behind it. And so, we're all very lucky to have this information here. And I'm sure when we come back from the break, which we already have to go to break, I'm sure that our listeners will love to hear more about what you found in your research and how they can integrate these practices into their lives. So thank you, Dr. Luskin. We will take a quick break and we will be right back. Stay tuned.
You're leaving now. It's in your eyes. There's no disguising it. It really comes as no surprise to find that you planned it all along.
Introducing the Lucid Planet, a digital gathering place featuring cutting-edge, high-vibrational content that will empower and inspire you to become the greatest version of yourself. Visit the Lucid Planet today to stimulate your mind, body, and soul as you connect with a global community of like-minded people. The Lucid Planet is edited by renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly Neff, who is here to help you cope with anxiety, connect to your higher purpose, uncover your true passions, and live your dreams. Dr. Kelly's fresh, compassionate perspective emphasizes growth, transformation, healing, and thriving, even in the face of adversity. Say goodbye to bad news and low vibrational media for good and become part of the larger collective of people working together to navigate the global shift of consciousness and transform the world from within. Join the planet, the Lucid Planet. Visit thelucidplanet.com. Welcome home.
Enlightening, humorous, and compassionate. Listen live to The Kelly Ballard Show, insight and inspiration from the great beyond. Kelly is a fourth-generation medium and intuitive who covers topics ranging from grief, spirit guides, and listening to your intuition. Kelly can help you get answers and guidance from the other side with a little bit of humor and a lot of healing. Tune in to The Kelly Ballard Show, Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Time here on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Are you feeling broken from your relationships? Are you second-guessing yourself about friends, family, and lovers? Tune in to the hit show that's creating a buzz in the love-seeking community. Love Seeker Radio, finding love for your authentic self with renowned love coach Heather Lynn. Tired of dissatisfying relationships? Kiss them goodbye and power up your love seeker energy. Coach Heather Lynn reminds you that you can just be you, the beautiful and perfect you. Visit heatherlynncoaching.com to learn more.
Chris Stanis is a spiritual leader and healer and teaches a course on how you can transform your life through a meditation and healing system that will manifest your spirit's dreams. She manifested the Women of Wisdom Conference, the Women of Wisdom book, and this radio show. And she can show you how to change your life too. Are you ready? Visit the website and contact her at voicesofwomentoday.com. That's voicesofwomentoday.com.
How would you like increased health and vitality? How would you like to avoid the onset of disease as well as slow the aging process? This is all possible through a simple, safe, and natural process. Every day we are either moving toward wellness or away from wellness.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. I'd like to be your partner in achieving optimal health. Contact me now at maryjanemack.com or call 425-392-0659. Visit maryjanemack.com.
We are back on Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly. My guest today is Dr. Fred Luskin, who is talking with us about the healing power of forgiveness. And let's just jump right into this. Fred, you have had all kinds of amazing findings and research. What stands out to you as the most kind of remarkable finding in your studies on how forgiveness can heal?
Well, the most remarkable thing is that forgiveness is a teachable skill. I'd say that's the, of all the positive psychology things that are emerging, the great news is you can teach people in some ways to be better people. That you can teach people to meditate and quiet down. You can teach them to be more compassionate. You can teach them to be more hopeful. My work and a few others has shown the remarkable thing that you can teach people to be more forgiving, which is, of all the spiritual qualities, the most challenging. Yes. And because forgiveness says that I've been harmed, and yet I can release my desire for retribution and revenge, and I can make peace, which is a remarkable statement in this world. So that's the most important finding of all, that people can learn positive skill development, and things that may have been considered like limited to the domain of church or religion are available in secular methods. Those are two really strong things. In terms of research, I'd say it's the breadth of situations that forgiveness can reach. That's the most important finding. That, we've done research on mothers who've had their children murdered, and we've done research on people who have had, catastrophic losses, and we've done research on people whose problem is their next door neighbor, put their fence 2 inches onto their property, and they're totally bent out of shape, and they can barely control themselves.
So, and what is your advice? What is your advice for them, or for all of them? How do you engage in this process of teaching people to forgive?
There's so much to say, but the thing that is really hard is the humility and the lack of self-centeredness that forgiveness requires. That it's almost an acceptance that painful things happen in this life, difficult things happen, and or we fail. And those can be met with gracefulness and even kindness. And the tendency, certainly as a world becomes more individualistic, is to be so self-focused and to put oneself at the center of everything, that this simple graciousness that, people screwed up, they made mistakes, I might have been hurt unintentionally, or even they meant to harm me, but they weren't thinking clearly, or I screwed up, and so what? We all screw up. But there's a humility that is at the heart of forgiveness that is really challenging for everyone. Yes. Because it says that, yes, our pain is important, but it may not be more important for the rest of our lives than all the other pain that everybody else faces. I mean, we're part of the human. We're part of the human thing. We're part of the human experience.
Yeah. And with that experience, there is that knowledge that there is pain, and everybody you love will hurt you, either because they did it intentionally, unintentionally, or because they're going to die and leave you, and that's going to hurt too, you know? And so how do we kind of reconcile that with, as you said, this self-centered, individualistic, egocentric culture that kind of reinforces our separateness when really what we need is unity?
And the other piece is that human beings often do things that are incredibly hurtful. And if you think of the number of people who cavalierly enter into affairs, it's just shocking. The data is somewhere that a little between a quarter and a half of men will have an affair in their life, and somewhere between 20% and 40% or 35% of women will have affairs. I mean, if you just think of that self-absorption and that selfishness writ large, I mean, and I'm not advocating that everybody has to stay together. I'm not even advocating totally for monogamy, just affairs that you don't tell them.
Yep.
You know, that you're not honest, that you don't say, I'm unhappy, or I don't want to be tied down, or I just don't want to deal with it this way. I want to do X. You want me to do Y. But the self-absorption in that and the hurt that does to the people who aren't expecting it. You just think of that one thing. And then you add to that the number of dishonest like business transactions there are, and just a world awash in insensitivity. You have to be able to live in that world somehow.
How?
You see what I'm getting at, right?
I do. I absolutely do. I mean, we had a whole show last week on, it's funny, on how monogamy fails and on how polyamory is possibly an alternative for people so that they can be honest and can have space for that. Because, you know, we're conditioned that, you know, we can't be honest about who we are. And that leads to a lot of lying and a lot of deceit and a lot of hurt.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I completely agree. And I just wonder, do you think that part of the problem of why people don't forgive or can't forgive is because they feel like by forgiving, they're making an agreement that behavior is okay?
Yes. And they also can't handle their own emotional upset, and so they need somebody to blame. Instead of somehow being able to say, I can hold my pain, I can let it work itself within me as I grieve my loss, which is what we're intended to do. We take the initial response, which is sensible. What harmed me? Where are they? How do I stop them? What do I do to punish them? Whatever. The initial response makes sense in any threatening situation, to look for where the harm is coming and try to stop it. Yep. But when you keep that going for even, it seems like about 6 months, it starts to have dangerous effects for the person, more so than for the person who's, you know, implicated. And, you know, it can lead to health problems or relationship problems, or just a lack of ability to say, you know, I can handle this. Like, yes, I'm hurt. Yes, you lied to me. Yes, the world isn't what I wanted, but I'm a grown-up, and I can deal with this inside of me or with some friends, that I don't need an enemy to justify my own lack of self control or regulation. That's the biggest unexplored piece. That just because I continue to get upset about this, that's not your fault.
Yep. It's a self-control issue, really. And that comes through disciplines, like you said, meditation or...
And a willingness to grieve pain.
Oh, wow.
Which has to be felt.
Yeah. And, you know, we have this, we denial runs strong in the human race and in our culture. We would rather kind of stop at that anger phase of grief than go through the entire phase and end up at that acceptance place, I think. And so I'm really excited to speak to you more about this when we come back from the break. And I just want to let our listeners know they can find you on the web at learningtoforgive.com. That's your website, correct?
Yep.
Cool. And your books, Forgive for Good and Forgive for Love, and more about your workshops and classes and everything, they can get in contact if they hear the show and they want to learn even more.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There's a lot of great stuff on there. Something on your website that's great is the 9 steps of forgiveness, and we'll talk more about that when we come back from the break, as well as kind of how we can forgive ourselves too, and not just others. Because I think sometimes the inability to forgive ourselves can be one of the biggest barriers to our own happiness and moving forward. So I'm Dr. Kelly, and this is Lucid Planet Radio. And when we come back, we're going to have a lot more about the power of forgiveness to heal and what this process and practice looks like with forgiveness specialist, Dr. Fred Luskin. So please stay tuned, stay with us, and we will be right back.
Tune in to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly Neff. This hit show will illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. Renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake to the greatest version of yourself. Learn to tap into your intuitions, think critically about our world, heal emotional and psychological wounds, and follow your passions to live your dreams. The Lucid Planet. Welcome home. Visit lucidplanetradio.com for more information.
If you're one of the millions of Americans suffering from anxiety, you probably know how powerless and out of control this emotion can make you feel. This is why it is so important to remember that anxiety is created by your mind, which means that you can learn to use your mind to uncreate it. Hello, my name is Dr. Friedman Schaub. My award-winning book, The Fear and Anxiety Solution, provides you with a step-by-step breakthrough process to understand and resolve the root causes of your anxiety and build a solid foundation of confidence and inner peace. If you're ready to take your power back, visit thefearandanxietysolution.com. That's thefearandanxietysolution.com, or call 866-903-6463. That's 866-903-MIND.
Tune in to Prescience Life Radio with host Mia Simone. Mia is devoted to sharing her extensive knowledge on the invisible worlds of energy. Join Mia and discover the science of intuition and connect with your greatest gift. Start living in your potential today and every day by opening up to the power of inner knowledge. To learn more about Mia, visit presciencelife.com.
Each month, listen to Live More Radio with co-host Allie Katz. Join Allie and Dr. Pat as Allie introduces new ways to bring balance back to your life through meditation, sleep, and exercise techniques so you can live your truly authentic life. Stress less, live more. To learn more about Allie, visit atozenmeditation.com.
Let the transition begin. Tune in to the hit show, Majestic Insights Radio, Success for Life's Transitions, with host Carrie Keith. Carrie is a gifted intuitive coach, healer, and teacher who will lead you through her empowering techniques of ancient wisdom and awareness so you can live your happiest, healthiest, and most vibrant life. Let Carrie teach you the tools of transformation that will help you experience success for all of life's transitions. To learn more about Carrie, visit www.majesticinsights.com.
We are back on Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly, and I am here with Dr. Fred Luskin talking about the power of forgiveness to heal us. Hi, Fred. I wanted to talk briefly about why it's important to forgive ourselves in addition to also forgiving the other people who have harmed us. I want to ask what your thought about that.
You know, the thing about self-forgiveness, it's not the same thing about other forgiveness, and self-forgiveness, I believe, is hard for some people for whom other forgiveness may be quite easy. That there are some people that just are very self-accepting and, you know, they're fine, but they're very hostile when they're provoked outside of themselves. There are other people who are incredibly giving and pleasant to others, but can be really difficult about themselves. And one of the misconceptions is that, like, they're the same thing, or that somehow you have to be able to forgive yourself before you can forgive others. I haven't found that to be true. What I have found is that whatever way is really hard for people, that's what they talk about. So some people can't forgive others, so they refer to that as really challenging. For the people who can't forgive themselves, that's what they refer to as their stuck point. Once you understand that it's a different way of being, like, unflexible and very rigid in the world, then you can understand that self-forgiveness involves some tenderness towards one's own shortcomings without ignoring the damage that we might have done.
Mm-hmm. And that can be really hard. I feel like I fall into the second category of I tend to be more forgiving of others and harder on myself. And
exactly. So you understood what I was saying about that.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I did. And I guess where I'm at is, but maybe it's a similar process still that you have to engage in, recognizing that the harm was done, but being willing to make peace with that and show humility to kind of let it go and not hold on to that pain. And I think about, you know, a situation where, let's say that, you know, someone's harmed you. Maybe they've stolen from you. Maybe it's a close family. This happened to a good friend of mine recently. A very close family member stole from him, and the family all took the other guy's side, and he's just incredibly hurt and incredibly upset, not only at his family member, but his whole family, and it created a major amount of conflict. How does he deal with that? What advice would you have for him in that moment to be able to let that go or to forgive?
Well, it's not so simple as what you do in the moment. It's decisions and practice also.
Yeah.
So we are, like, now what we've practiced. It's not, and so what you practice becomes your default. What you practice most often, except for real danger. So if somebody, you know, comes at you with an axe or is driving on the wrong side of the road, it's absolutely understandable and essential to, for a moment, be very frightened of them and dislike them intensely and want harm to happen to them.
Mm-hmm. It's our instinct.
What do we practice long term will show up in how we handle things. And then there's decisions. It's not just, I can tell you some things to do in the moment, but it's not that simple.
Sure.
There's also decisions. There's the decision of what kind of person do I want to be? Yep. So many people make the decision that they would like to, you know, be as decent a person as they could. So after a while of being upset or feeling victimized or totally vulnerable, they will make a decision to let it go. Other people have a decision, very primitive decision, that is, nobody's going to mess with me, and they do. And if they do, you know, there's hell to pay.
Yeah.
And so you can't just look at the moment as existing outside of a lot of preparation. That's it. Mm-hmm. If you're in a moment where you're out of control and you're not in real danger, the most important thing to do is chill. But if you're in real danger, you got to take care of it. But if you're not in real danger, then there are breathing practices. There are positive emotion practices. So taking a few breaths into and out of one's abdomen, thinking of someone you love, even to the point of just running away for a moment and moving your body to get rid of the anxiety. All those are good strategies so that you get your brain back. Because the problem with thinking at an upset moment is the effect of adrenaline. And adrenaline causes us to make bad decisions. And so you want to calm down whenever you can so that you can see, is the agitation and upset necessary, or can I give another response?
And so, like you said, if you know you're going to have to be around someone who's hurt you, whether it's family or friends or whatever, then you can prepare yourself.
You got it exactly.
Yes. And then when you're in that moment and you feel that stress or anxiety kicking in, there's things you can do to separate yourself from the situation, to move your body around, to have positive affirmations going through your head, all of those things. But I still find, and I'm sure there's probably many people out there who might agree, that sometimes when someone's hurt you, even if you forgive them, you might not want them in your life anymore. Is that okay? Is it part of the forgiveness?
Beyond okay. Forgiveness does not mean that you have to invite toxic people to dinner.
Good. Yeah.
It just means that you don't invite them to dinner without being necessarily furious at them or feeling like they've ruined your life. You just don't invite them to dinner because that's the smartest thing to do.
Good. Yes. I mean, and I'm sure there's many people out there who've dealt with, you mentioned narcissists, and narcissists are those types of people when you realize that they're narcissists, you really just have to love them from afar. You can't have them in your life because they will destroy your life if you let them. But there's still a way to forgive them for the damage that they've caused, knowing that they're kind of ill and that's their problem. It's not your problem.
Well, the thing is, if you're looking at a little bit also the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness is that inner quality of I'm okay, can I be at peace, can I be stable, can I open my heart back up. Reconciliation involves the relationship. So the easiest way to tease that apart is to understand there are many married couples who don't get along, who reconcile but never forgive, which is they live together but they hate each other. That's a reconciliation without forgiveness. Yeah. Then you may get some couples who forgive and say, look, you had an affair, but, it was a bad marriage. Or you ended it terribly, but you were smart. You may not have done so skillfully, but we needed to break apart. So there's no bitterness. It's just that we need to go our own ways and have our own lives, and that's what's best for us all.
Wow. So really another misconception then about forgiveness is that it's the same as reconciliation. It's not the same at all.
It's one of the things that keeps people from forgiving because they think they have to somehow go home or be in relationship with or even be nice to somebody who's been cruel to them. That's stupid. That's not forgiving.
Right. Forgiving is more that internal processing then of knowing you're okay and that you control how you react to outside events and situations and people, and you can release whatever pain has caused you.
Well, and that you're responsible for making yourself happy, not waiting for somehow the world to redo itself so your past changes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. I just want to reiterate that. You are responsible for making yourself happy. I mean, that alone, really internalizing and processing and meditating on that idea alone can have incredibly profound effects, I think. Because we so put our happiness outside of ourselves. And really, our happiness is our responsibility. We can't have someone go and change the past. We get to decide in every moment. We get to choose our happiness. So Thank you for that. I think that's incredibly profound and important, and I certainly need to take that on board in my own life as well. And wow, so having said that, we're going to head to the break right now, and when we come back, I will be here with Dr. Fred Luskin talking a little bit more about the healing power of forgiveness. And so please stay tuned for Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly. We will be right back.
Tune in to the hit show Master's Chambers with your trusted friend Connie Fife. Mondays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Each week, Connie will connect you with the best thought leaders from around the globe to share their strategies and best practices. Getting better together. To book Connie, visit ConnieFifeSpeaks.com.
The doctor is in. Tune in to the hit show, The Psychic Love Doctor, with host Deborah Lee. Deborah's life-affirming, highly perceptive reading method has taught Deborah how to zero in on specific problems with relationships, career pursuits, and current roadblocks to success and happiness. This inspiring show will help you never feel helpless in life or love ever again. Join Deborah Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific Time right here on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
We Carry the Light with host Dr. Susan Allison is the show that inspires you to find the light within and shine your light in the world. You'll hear from guests who model how to be the highest, brightest, most evolved, fulfilled, and conscious humans possible. Tune in each Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com and let Dr. Susan help you discover that you carry the unique light that only you can shine.
Introducing the Lucid Planet, a digital gathering place featuring cutting-edge, high vibrational content that will empower and inspire you to become the greatest version of yourself. Visit the Lucid Planet today to stimulate your mind, body, and soul as you connect with a global community of like-minded people. The Lucid Planet is edited by renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly Neff, who is here to help you cope with anxiety, connect to your higher purpose, uncover your true passions, and live your dreams. Dr. Kelly's fresh, compassionate perspective emphasizes growth, transformation, healing, and thriving, even in the face of adversity. Say goodbye to bad news and low vibrational media for good and become part of the larger collective of people working together to navigate the global shift of consciousness and transform the world from within. Join the planet, the Lucid Planet. Visit thelucidplanet.com. Welcome home.
Artie Hoffman is the hottest psychic with the warmest heart and the host of the hit show Angels and Answers. A renowned psychic, medium, spiritual life coach, and an entertaining motivational speaker, Artie has helped over 15,000 people with his amazing intuitive gifts, his passion, and his humor. Call 877-ANGEL-02 to schedule a personal reading or to have your own psychic Artie party. That's 877-ANGEL-02. And visit artiehoffman.com and Angels and Answers on Facebook.
Between the darkness on the street and the houses filling up with light, between the stillness in my heart and the roar of the approaching night.
Welcome back to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly. I am here with Dr. Fred Luskin, and we are going to finish the show by talking more about forgiveness and what this process looks like as part of our healing. When we left for the break, we were talking about how you control your happiness, and forgiveness is part of that. And during the break, Fred was saying, it's not being consumed by your garbage. It's not a form of weakness. It's really, to forgive, we are taking back our power. Yes. And so, I think that's incredibly inspiring, that it doesn't mean you're weak. It actually makes you very strong because you're willing to move past the anger. And I wanted to bring up, we talked about relationships and cheating, being cheated on. I've been in both situations. I've had monogamy fail on me. I'm now polyamorous, and my partner Jimmy Ohm and I have been traveling around doing polyamory workshops. And one of the biggest questions that always comes up for people is kind of dealing with their fear at being hurt in relationships, or their fear of being cheated on, and their anger at being cheated on, and kind of how they deal with this. And I was wondering, Fred, if you have any kind of feedback on this or thoughts about this topic.
This is where forgiveness is so important, because if you don't get over some of your past wounds, you're too afraid of new wounding. And you have to understand that, I don't have to understand, but a better approach is to say, I was hurt, I was devastated, I was disappointed, I was lied to, whatever. But I found the skills to live my life successfully after it.
Yes.
And that's very different. And so what's really important is the understanding that by healing myself, by saying, I get it, life is difficult, but at this moment, I need to do what I can, as best I can, to live a successful life without waiting for the past to change or other people to become perfect.
Sure.
Then you become less afraid of living.
Right. Well, and that's it. I mean, if you're afraid of, everyone's going to, like we talked about, everyone will hurt you in some way, right? Eventually.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're afraid of that, then you'll never really get the full human experience. So it sounds like what you're saying is really that this is a coping skill. This is a strategy that we can employ in our relationships so that we can love to the fullest and be fully present.
Let me explain this to you. When you're upset anywhere, it's always now. When you link that to the past, you in some ways deepen the victimization and the difficulty. Because yes, it's about the how would I say it? It's about now always.
Right.
And so what you're working on is always now. And so that's what's so helpful. That's the way that you can start to look at it, which is, what do I do now to give myself a decent life? Well, I can't argue with my past now and be happy.
Yep.
And so this is the difference between some degree of taking responsibility for one's own well-being and like just being a victim of the past. So if right now you're asking, what do I do? There are certain relationships where simply trusting, even though it's hard, is the best thing for you to do for your own well-being.
And if you get hurt or they betray that trust, knowing you'll be okay.
And if you get hurt, you know that that's part of it, and you can deal with it.
Yep.
You're never going to protect yourself. The big misconception of life is that bitterness will make you safe. It does harden your heart a bit, but it doesn't make you safe.
No, it just takes away from you, really.
Exactly.
It just hurts your spirit.
That's it. And it makes, and here's the other piece. It makes you less likable.
Very true. And it's kind of, it creates that self-fulfilling prophecy. Why don't people like me? Why don't people like me? But it's because of your attitude. And then it reinforces it. And then nobody likes you. And then you're more bitter. And then before you know it, you're old and by yourself.
I mean, you don't have to go that extreme.
With a bunch of cats, no? I'm just kidding.
Right, exactly. And the cats aren't fed. And, it's like a real mess.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with what you're saying. And so much of this, like you said, really does feel to me almost like Eastern spirituality, of the discipline of being responsible and present. And, you're talking about the always now, and that just makes me think of Ram Dass and be here now, and that idea that there's always only now. That's all we ever have. The past doesn't actually exist because we're in that present moment all the time. And so we're constantly able to make decisions for that present moment. And
and the big problem is if you're continuously blaming the past.
Yeah.
That's what's really challenging, because you can't do anything about it.
No, you're powerless. That's very disempowering and kind of painful.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I think that's really the overall take-home message for today's show is to empower yourself. It is not the traditional, Western version of self-empowerment where everyone tells you you're great and you're likable and you have lots of Facebook friends and so you're empowered. You actually empower yourself more through kind of humility and and through being present and, recognizing the humanity in everyone, and that you can't change the past, but you have complete control over how you react to your present. And that's truly the most empowering thing. And I think that forgiveness is an amazing vehicle for delivering that. So
that's what I believe. And the last piece is that there's that wonderful statement about forgiveness, which I had nothing to do with, is forgiveness is giving up all hope for a better past.
That's wonderful. Yes. But total hope for a better future.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
That's wonderful. That's great. Well, Dr. Luskin, thank you so much. Fred, thank you so much for coming on the show today and really sharing such inspiring information with us. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. But I feel like we got through a lot and that there was some really great healing information here. And I thank you, and our listeners at Lucid Planet, thank you. And I really had a wonderful time chatting with you. So I hope that our listeners, you can join me every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Mountain, and 2 p.m. Pacific. You can also find out way more about Dr. Fred Luskin and his work on forgiveness and his books, Forgive for Good and Forgive for Love, at learningtoforgive.com. You can also connect with me at thelucidplanet.com and find me on Facebook and Twitter at The Lucid Planet with Dr. Kelly. You can also stream all of the archives on SoundCloud by going to lucidplanetradio.com. And listen to us on Wednesdays also on AM radio WBLQ 1230 in New York and KKNW 1150 AM in Seattle, as well as the stream on Transformation Talk Radio. Woo, lots of info. For the next 2 weeks, I will be traveling to the West Coast to do sex and polyamory workshops at Enchanted Forest Gathering in Mendocino. There's still time to buy tickets at enchantedforestmendo.com. I will be back on August 26th with Janet Hardy, who is the co-author of The Ethical Slut, one of the greatest and most inspiring original books on polyamory that was ever written. So stay tuned for all of that. And in the meantime, while I'm gone, I am sending you lots of light and love, and you can hear replays of past episodes during those times. And again, thank you to my guest, Dr. Fred Luskin. And I just want to wish you
very much, Kelly.
Thank you so much for coming on. And have a great day, everyone. Lots of light and love. Take care.
You've been listening to the hit show, Lucid Planet Radio, with renowned psychologist and author, Dr. Kelly Neff. Tune in each week as we illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. This hit show will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake up to the greatest version of yourself. Learn how to navigate the global shift of consciousness as you explore the deeper knowledge, passion, and purpose within. Visit lucidplanetradio.com for upcoming show topics and to contact Dr.